1932. That was a year after losing the engine. The company wanted to extend their route. They flew as far west as Bismarck, North Dakota at that time. But they wanted to get a contract with the post office to extend it all the way to Seattle. Well, of course, the people flying through Chicago, Denver, into the West Coast didn't want competition north of them. So they began to all say that it couldn't be done in the wintertime. Now, just understand this, before instrument flying. They said you can't fly across those northern mountains in the wintertime. It's just too dangerous. It's impossible to do. So Croyle Hunter decided that he would do it in January and prove that it could be done. And it so happened that he had known Amelia Earhart. I'm not quite sure just on what basis, possibly he went to school with her or something of that kind. But he knew her, and she was traveling west to Portland on a speaking tour, and he invited her to join our survey flight, which is how that happened. And she accepted. And the flight was made starting in the middle of January, 1933. She had just crossed the Atlantic Ocean, single woman flying across, and I think it was probably April or May of 32. So she was quite famous by this time. She agreed to go with us, and so she was a passenger, and of course I got to spend 3 or 4 days with her on the flight. Besides that picture on the wall, I have another picture in the kitchen there, which I took with my Brownie Kodak in her suite at the Davenport Hotel in Spokane. Those are 2 pictures that they don't have in the exhibit, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Well, they may have that one, but they don't have that one. I'm the only one that has that copy. So we flew to Bismarck the very first day. And of course, it was in the middle of winter. We parked the airplane out at the airport, and we were invited to the governor's mansion for dinner that night. So the whole group went to the governor's mansion, and we spent the evening talking with the governor and with Amelia, and we were all in one small group together. Along about 9 o'clock or so, Hugh says, "Joe, we got to get to the hotel and plan our next day's flight, because we have to figure out how we're going to get to Helena, Montana." We got out the maps and drew lines and measured compass readings, and finally made our track on paper from Bismarck to Billings, stop at Billings to refuel, and then on to St. Helena, out to Helena. We took off next morning, and it was bitter cold outside. We had to have the engines warmed up under tarps with heaters in order to get them started, but the mechanics had done all that before us, and so we were all warmed up, ready to go when the group got there. We flew west to, of course, neither Hugh or I had ever been farther. I'd never been as far as Bismarck before. but we were in virgin territory as far as we were concerned. Fortunately, there's the Yellowstone River, and all we had to do was fly west and hit the Yellowstone, and you had to just follow the Yellowstone right down to Billings. We had a luncheon at Billings. The Chamber of Commerce had everybody in town there. And they had a great visit with the media. And after lunch, we got on board the aircraft, and we flew from there to Butte, and got in the valley and up the valley to Helena, and spent the night in Helena, which was also another evening at the governor's mansion. Well, while we were at the governor's mansion, of course, the big talk was, how are you going to get west over the mountains? And there was a guy there by the name of Fred Sheriff, as I recall. He was a wealthy rancher and a friend of the governor's, and pretty outspoken guy. And he allowed us how he knew that country like the back of his hand. And he would go with us and direct us through the mountains. So the next morning, we get all set up, we're at the airport ready to go, and Mr. Sheriff is aboard, and he's standing at the cockpit door, and he tells you, when you take off, you want to go up that valley there. So we took off, and we went up that valley, and we hadn't been out more than 10, 15 minutes, and we ran into a huge snow squall. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. The only way you could fly was look straight down on the ground. And we were completely blind, other than what we could see out the side window. And we couldn't turn around. While we're in this situation, the sheriff said, you got to turn around. He said, we're in a blind canyon, and I gave the wrong place. Uh-oh. Well, we couldn't have done a thing about it anyway. We had to get out of that snow squall to turn around. Because we're not flying blind, and you don't just pivot around on one point on the ground. We got out of there and back. And he said, I'm sorry, you should have gone up this one. So we went up that one. Well, oh boy, the same thing happened. The snow squalls all over the place. And in the middle of that one, Mr. Sheriff said, you got to turn around. This is a blind gorge also. I'm sorry. And so we have to wait till we get out of it. We're sweating all the time. Get out of the storm and turn around, have to go back through it. We get back to the point of beginning, and Mr. Sheriff was about to open up his mouth again, and he says, very kindly, Mr. Sheriff, if you don't mind, we'll take care of the flying up here. You go back there and find yourself a seat, make yourself comfortable, and enjoy the ride. Anyway, we continued on, and we got out to Mullen Pass. The Mullen Pass is the lowest spot over the Rockies, and the clouds are right on top of the Mullen Pass. Absolutely no way anybody was ever going to fly across that pass that day. Well, for all intents and purposes, the people were right, weren't they? You cannot fly this well in the wintertime. But Hugh was not one of those kind of guys that gives up easily. We turned around and we started back. We went back as far as Missoula. We're in the clear again in Missoula, and we look up over north of the town. There's a big mountain range that goes across there. And up at the top there's this cliff like this. Have no idea what's on the other side. But Hugh climbs up and flies through that gap. We come on down the other side, and we're over a little river. The little river is looking like the... Turns out we look at the map, and it's a root river, and its origin is in the north end of of Ponderay Lake. Ponderay Lake is on the west side of the mountains. For all intents and purposes, we crossed the Great Divide when we went through that gap. We went down and we flew up to just follow the river all the way up to Sandpoint, got on the lake, took the lake down, and turned off and flew into Spokane Airport. And Spokane Airport was closed. It was snowing. And all the United pilots were sitting there when these Swedes from Minnesota come in with their Ford Tri-Motor and land in the middle of the runway and taxi into the ramp. They couldn't believe that we had done that.